All right, welcome back to practical lesson 4. In this video we are going to design health and fitness book cover design, and if you go to the exercise file, you see the 0704 health and fitness. You see the design folder for this design. So we have the design information, we also have the images used. So we're going to design health and fitness, and the title is going to be A Human's Guide to Muscle and Fitness. We're going to have a subtitle, and then we're going to have a badge. So let me add badge, and on that badge we are going to add awarded top 10 fitness books, and then also, and then we have some photo credits, and also we have the Montserrat fonts and some other fonts. So let's go to the folder. We have these two images, and we have this texture that I'm going to use. So I'm going to open Photoshop, and I'm going to create a document size. So I'm going to stick with 1563 by 25. So I'm going to use 300, and I'm going to use CMYK color mode. Later on, I'm going to change back to RGB, and then I will test both so you can see the difference between both of them. So I'm going to choose a color. So I'm just going to find a color, maybe this color would do. And then I'm going to click on Alt Delete on Windows or Option Delete on Mac to paint the background with the foreground color. I'll start adding the images and the text to this background. So now let's go to the folder, and let's take a look at so I have this texture and I have these other two images. I'm going to try the two of them, but let me go to, there's a link for this one. So I'm going to open this. I'm going to right click and choose open with Photoshop, and now it's going to open, and I'm going to drag it into, so just drag it, hold it down and drag until it opens in the other tab, and then you drop. So it's going to be in a new layer, and I'm going to drag it to move it to the left and down. So I like it in this position. So now I'm going to select the quick selection tool, and I'm going to mask the background. So I'm going to click on select subject, and it's going to select the subject, and now I'm going to refine the edges. You can see towards the head at the top it's not well refined. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select and mask, and I'm going to mask around the hair. So select and mask, and I will select the refine edge brush tool, and I'm going to brush around the hair to make sure I actually get the hair right. So, and I'm going to take a look at other parts, and so now you can see it looks so much better now. So, and you might maybe shift the edge a little bit, maybe it's around here is good, and I'm going to click on OK, and now you can see it's so much better. So even though some part of the hair is still sticking out, you might want to maybe brush more and then mask, and now you can see some part of the hair is not all right. So what you want to do is probably go into the mask and then maybe clean some part of the hair that is sticking out. So I'm going to click into the mask, then zoom in a little bit, and then use the brush tool, and then make sure the foreground color is black, and I'm going to maybe zoom in more and then clean some part of the hair. You don't have to do this actually, but sometimes you might want to do that. Then opacity, make it 100, and then maybe clean that thoroughly. And now if I zoom back out, you can see it looks so much better. So this is something that you can do. And now I'm going to select the move tool, and now I'll start adding the title. So I'm done with the images, so just one image for this. So I'm going to create a new layer, So I'm going to select the text tool and I'm going to start typing the title of this design. So the title is A Woman's Guide to. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to split the title into two lines. So I'm going to click and it's going to create a new layer, and I'm going to manually type A Woman's Guide to, double click on that, and I'm going to change the font to Montserrat fonts. So I'm going to use Montserrat, maybe extra light, and of course I'm going to increase the size, and then sample a color from the skin. Like I said, you can always sample a color from the images, but maybe white will be fine. And I'm going to use the text panel to increase the size to maybe around 34, and now I'm going to use the character panel, make it all caps, and then drag it to the center, and then maybe reduce the size to about 25, and now it looks so much, maybe 23 or 22, and I'm going to spread out the spacing between the characters. So now and check. So now this is the first part of the title. So the second part of the title, A Woman's Guide to Muscle and Fitness. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it a different, maybe the same font. I'm going to type muscles. I'm going to double click, but this time around I think I would choose maybe bold or extra bold, and then increase the size, and I'm going to reduce the spacing, make it 0 or make it something like that, and make it bold or black. Yeah, I think black will look better on this design, and I'm going to drag it to. And I'm going to check. So I might need to, maybe I should duplicate that, Control J or Command J to duplicate, and I'm going to drag it down, and now I'm going to change that to fitness. I'm going to type in hand somewhere in the middle there. So I'm going to create a space for the word hand, and I'm going to select the text tool, select the type tool, and I'm going to type hand, A-N-D, double click, and I'm going to choose this Vulgar Script font, then make it, click on that, and then reduce the size, then make it maybe smaller. Maybe around 27, and I'm going to drag it to the middle. Maybe more 23, 24, and then the color, I'm going to sample color from the skin. Maybe towards the lighter part of the skin. I might need to add maybe a layer style to that, so I'm going to check. I'm going to choose outer glow, no, maybe add some drop shadow, and then reduce the size, reduce the distance, the spread. I'm going to make that maybe gray, add some inner glow, maybe some color overlay, and I'm going to sample from somewhere around the nose and then make it lighter somehow, and then click on OK, and I think it looks good. So I'm going to select the move tool and I make sure it's right in position. So now I'm going to adjust the title, maybe make this muzzle, add some layer style also. I'm going to give it a 3D look, so I'm going to add some bevel and emboss, and I'm going to maybe change the style, the depth, increase the depth, or make it around 126, then maybe that size is okay, and then the size, maybe 5 looks okay. Then the angle, let's make it like 120, so it looks more like it's going from left to right. Then the altitude, then the screen highlight mode. So I might need to just play with some of these functions. The shadow mode, you can change the color of the shadow mode and some other things like that. So maybe we can add some stroke and then select that. Opacity, maybe some gradient overlay. You can give it something like a metallic look, so I can click on any of the stops and give it a white, off-white, and also this, maybe a little bit gray, and now I can click on OK. So maybe I don't like this, maybe I want to make it linear, the style, or radial style, and then the angle, maybe so. Then make it, you can play with the reverse or you can uncheck that too. Then the scale, let's go back to the gradient. So I think I want to move it more to here, maybe something like this. So more of the white coming in from the left. Let me delete that. Then this color stop, I might need to just move it more to the left. And now click on OK. And now maybe this is okay, so I'm going to click on OK. And then maybe a drop shadow. You can play with that, see what you get. Then the opacity, the distance, the spread, reduce that, the size, we can just increase the size or reduce it to maybe 3 and click on OK, and it looks, we can come back and adjust that later, but for now we are probably going to stick with that. And I can copy that and paste it into the fitness text just to Let me go back to bevel and see what else I can change. Maybe the depth. And now click on OK. And now it looks maybe so much better. I'm going to right click and copy the layer style, and I'm going to paste the style on the fitness text layer. So I'm going to go to this layer, right click and click on paste layer styles, and now you can see it's pasted. So now I'm going to go back to this layer, and I'm going to sample color from the skin. I think it will look so much better with a color from, and then I think this one looks okay, so I'm going to click OK. So now I'm done with the title. Maybe I need to center stuff, but before that, let me go to the text file and then copy the subtitle. I'm going to paste the subtitle maybe somewhere here on the left. I'm going to select the text or the type tool, and I'm going to draw out the area that I want the text to fill, and it's going to be populated. So I'm going to paste it there, Control V or Command V, and I'm going to reduce the size until it fits. So I'm going to drag it to, maybe I want this text to occupy 3 lines, so I'm going to continue to make it left align, and right now I think it's about 5 lines. So I'm going to make the color maybe white, or maybe some off-white, and like I said, I'm going to go to the character panel and reduce the spacing. So maybe make it 0, and now you can see it has dropped to 3 lines. So I think I like it this way, so I'm going to close this at the bottom and then maybe drag it a little bit to the, close this, and I'm going to select the move tool and then drag it down or maybe up like so. So I might need to maybe make the edges of the text, make it straight. So what I can do is to click on Control R or Command R to get the ruler, and I'm going to drag out the ruler on the left side, and I'm going to, maybe I should zoom in, and I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to drag it maybe a little bit to make sure the text are actually touching the line. That way the text is going to be straight on the left side. So I'm going to go to the layers and then make sure it's touching the first one. Then the second one, I'm going to drag it with the arrow, and then this one, move it with the arrow, make sure it's actually straight. So this layer, I can drag it, or I can maybe increase the spacing until it's actually touching. Maybe move it to the left, then increase the spacing, drag it to the right, and now you can see it's actually touching. So I'm going to drag out another, and now I'm going to do the same on the right. You don't have to worry whether the ruler has equal spacing on the left or right. We are just trying to make sure that everything is centered. We can center the whole text later. And I'm going to drag until it fits. And now you can see I'm going to go to this, double click, then maybe increase it a little bit to maybe 81 or 82. You can see it's not quite touching that, but I'm probably going to leave it like that. So now I'm going to zoom back out and I'm going to get rid of the ruler and then Control R or Command R to get rid of that. So now you can see the image is right under the text, but I want it to actually be on the text. It's going to look so much better if it's right on top of the text. So I'm going to drag it to the top, so it's actually, now you can see it looks so much better because people will be trying to guess what is actually behind, you know. This actually makes this design so much better. So I think I like it like this, and now we are done with this. So the next step is to add the badge, and we are going to add the badge maybe somewhere down there, and I'm going to group all this, select all the text, group them together and name it title. Now you can see this is the title. So I'm going to create a new layer right on top of that group, and I'm going to add a badge. So I'm going to go to the custom shape tool, and I'm going to find anything that I can, any shape that I can use as badge. So I can use maybe the cycle or the seal. So this is the seal. Let me see if I can get another one. Then this is flower shape, and scroll down. So this is just a cycle. So I think I'll use the seal, and of course you can also get some images online that you can use and just import it and put it there. So I'm going to drag it out holding down the shift key. Make sure you're holding down the shift key so that the shape is actually circular. So now I can double click, give it a color. Right now the color is blue, that's why we can't see. So I'm going to give it this color, maybe somewhere here, and then click on OK, and I'm going to drag it so it's actually touching that edge on the left. And now on this seal I'm going to select the ellipse tool, and I'm going to drag out a cycle. So make sure you're holding down the shift key until you draw out a perfect cycle, and I'm going to select the move tool and then drag it to the top. I'm going to double click that and then give it a different color, make it black, click on OK, and I'm going to, until it's centered. So Control T or Command T, and I'm going to reduce the size and check. So if both of them, I can group them together, and of course I'm going to make sure it's centered. So click on center in the option bar. So I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to double click that and make sure the fill is 0. I'm going to select that, and I'm going to give it a stroke. The fill, make sure it has no fill, but it has a stroke. So the stroke, I'm going to make it white, and of course I'm going to increase maybe 0.73 or thereabout. Control T or Command T. And if you hold down the Alt key, you're going to make sure that it's actually centered. So you hold down the Shift, Alt, or Option plus Shift at the same time. So now I'm going to give it that, and now I'm going to double click that and give it a white color and click on OK. So the stroke, and double click, make sure it's white. So maybe increase this to maybe 2 pixels. And now you can see we have created a seal. Maybe I should make this 3 pixels, and now you can see it's thicker and it looks so much better. So select the move tool, zoom back out, and you can see it looks so much better. So now let's start adding the text on the badge. So we are going to go to the text file, and you can see awarded top 10 fitness book. So I want it to be round. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the pen tool, curvature pen tool. So I'm going to click and then click and then click, and then it's going to give me that curve. And I'm going to maybe here and then close that shape. And now I'm going to select the text tool or the type tool. When you hover over it, you will see that you have that shape, and now click on it, and then it's going to paste some text, and now I can type over that text, and now double click and reduce the text. So I want to move the text a little bit to the right, so I'll put the cursor at the beginning of the text and click the space bar until I move the text to the right until it is where I want it to be. Give it a color, make it white, and now I'm going to click on the space bar until it's so I'm going to use the Georgia font, Georgia regular. The size, I'm going to make it so select the type tool again and make sure go before A and then put the space bar and make sure it actually looks straight. So the next step is top. I'm going to make sure that one is actually like this. Then the font for that, I'm going to make it the ballpark font, and I'm going to increase the size, maybe 20. And of course the color, I'm going to select the color of this badge, increase the spacing between the characters, and then make it not all caps. I think it's okay. And now top 10, double click, use the Georgia font, drag it to. So for now, we're just going to put all the text. We are going to center everything once we are done with the badge. Fitness book, double click, reduce, make it all caps, I want to make sure that it actually fits, so I'm going to reduce the size to maybe around 6. I think it's okay, and I'm going to check that, and now you can see we have all that. So I'm going to drag that maybe down with the arrow, with the down arrow. So I'm going to add some stars, 3 stars. So I'm going to go to the custom shape, find the star shape, and then draw it out. And now double click and give it a color, make it white. So I can duplicate that 2 times and then drag that out with the arrow, with the right arrow key, and then duplicate that again, and then maybe move that up. Control T, I want to increase the size, hold down the shift key, and now you can see that one is bigger than the, and I'm going to move that up so until it gives me this, and I'm going to rename that star 2, then this one star 1, double click this one star 3, and I'm going to make sure that they are, select 3 of them, and I'm going to move that to the right with the arrow key, duplicate that, and I'm going to drag that to Control T or Command T, and then I'm going to drag. I can rotate that so that it's actually in the reverse order. So make sure you hold down the shift while doing that, and I can see I can use the arrow to move that too. And now I have the details of the badge. I can group everything together. So this layer, maybe more space to make sure it's actually standing straight. And now I still don't like the way it looks, but you can just make it better. So there are other tools you can use for this actually, but I'm going to name it Awarded, and I'll select all the layers, seal, shift select to select all of them, and then group them together, and we are going to name it badge. So now you can see this is the badge. So now we can make sure that they are actually all centered. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all the stars. So star 1, shift select all the stars, and now you can move them. So when you move, you can see, when you see that straight vertical line, horizontal line, you can actually know when it's actually centered. So just continue to drag. Now you can see it's actually centered horizontally. So I'm going to select this layer, fitness and 10, and then top and awarded, and I'm going to ellipse tool, and I'm going to use this to actually center. Now you can see they're all centered. You can maybe move. So this fitness box, maybe drag it down a little bit. And now, I don't know if this badge, because of the shape that I'm using, you can get another badge shape. So this one doesn't look good, but I think it's still okay. So now we are done with the badge, we are done with the title, we are done with the image. Let's go back to the text. Now let's add the author name, and we are going to add it right here at the bottom left hand corner, the type tool, and now double click and Control V or Command V to paste. Change it to Montserrat font, make it Montserrat bold, or maybe regular or semi bold. Increase the size, maybe regular, and then drag like so, and now move, duplicate that, Control J or Command J, copy health and fitness expert, double click on that second layer and then paste. And now double click again and now reduce the size. And we are going to make sure it's the same width as the author name. So drag it up to the left, and I'm going to group both, name it author. And now we can make necessary adjustments. So now I'm going to add the texture. So I'm going to right click, open with, and open in Photoshop. And now I'm going to drag it and then hold down and drop it into, and then drag it to position. So Control T or Command T and resize and check, and I'm going to drag it to the bottom right on top of the background layer. So now what I'm going to do is right click and convert to smart object. So this way I can easily just swap that texture anytime. So double click on it and then change the texture anytime I want. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to change the mode So I'll go to this layer and I'm going to change to maybe multiply or color bond or darken. So I think multiply looks good, and you can see, so you can play with all of them and see which one looks. Overlay kind of look good, so you can reduce the opacity and see if it's okay. So make it 100%, and of course you can always change the color of this. Double click and click on OK, and you can double click and color overlay and change the color, see if it gives you. So I'm going to paste this color and make it deeper. and click on OK. And now, so I think the reason why I'm getting this look is because I'm actually using the CMYK mode. Like I said, RGB is always better, but you can always try CMYK just to see. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to change back to RGB, and then we are going to compare both of them. So now that I'm done with that, maybe the opacity, maybe change it down a little bit, or make it 100. So let's see, let's leave it like this and then see what we've achieved. And we're almost done with this. Just continue to play with this and see if. So now I think it's better. So now I'm going to put all the background into a group, and I'm going to name it background. Of course, this layer, I'm going to create a group for it, and I'm going to put it inside that image layer because I want it to be right at the top. So now I have that, and I'm going to save as, and I'm going to name it fitness book cover. Of course, save it as a PSD, and now save it again as a JPEG, and I'm going to click on save and then OK, and I'm done with this design. So like I said, this is CMYK color mode. So let's see the difference when we actually change to RGB and then compare the look of both of them. So if I double click, you can see it looks kind of dull, and mostly CMYK color, this is what they look like because the color range isn't that wide. So I'm going to go back, and I'm going to go to image mode and select RGB color, and then don't match, don't rasterize, and now right, you can see the difference. The RGB color mode, the range of color is so wide that we have this wide range of colors, and it makes it look so much better compared with the CMYK. So now if I go back to this opacity and I reduce that, you see it looks so much better. With the CMYK, I couldn't get this look. So I can even leave it at 100% or reduce that, and you can see it looks so much better. So like I said, RGB is the mode to always select. So you can, if I save this and we compare the JPEG file, you will see that the JPEG file looks so much. You can see that the RGB color and click on JPEG and click on OK, so we can go inside and compare the two. So if I double click on this one, this is the RGB, this is the CMYK. So you can see the RGB looks so much better, even though we can make it better, but the CMYK looks kind of dull and dry. And so RGB, it is, always stick with RGB. But of course, if you want the CMYK, if you prefer the CMYK, or if you have a client that wants the CMYK, you can always give them the CMYK, but the RGB is always better. So this is the end of this design, and you can also try something like this. Go through the files in the exercise folder and then just try with the same image, the same font, the same text, and see what you come up with. And of course, if you have any question, you can always ask me any question at any time, and I'll be there to answer any questions that you have. So in the next video, we are going to design children book cover. So on to the next video.